Oh, my first fight with Zulu was just maybe the biggest experience I ever had in my life, because I was 19 years old, sitting on the couch in my living room with my father and everybody, and then my father received a call from the north of Brazil, from an old student and old rival, which is Valdemar Santana, who very respectfully asked him if he had somebody to fight Zulu, which at the time was 120 fights undefeated with 4 draws and 120 victories. So he was the guy to be beat at the northern states of Brazil. And then, in order to have a special event in Brasilia, which is the capital of Brazil, they decided to make a very special fight. And then Valdemar Santana asked my dad if he had somebody. And then immediately from the top of his mind said, no, nobody's training very hard for a fight, you know. And as I saw the idea of a fight, I said, Dad, please pull me in, pull me in, pull me in. And Dad looked at me and said, who is this guy? And then he said, oh, this is Zulu, he's a champion. And more Valdemar Santana kind of acknowledged how good Zulu was. I felt like my dad was more willing to put me in the lion's cove, you know. So he's become motivated to see if I can able to go for the task. So I convinced him, and he said, yeah, I have a kid here with 19 years old, he'd like to try. And then Valdemar immediately said, no, please, master, no, he's too young, the guy's already he's speaking, no, it's not good. And then as the guy tried to avoid the fight, my father started to become more excited with, no, but my kid can. So eventually we set up the fight, and 1 week before the fight, I was in Brasilia to adapt myself, because there is a drier, more high elevation, so it's thinner air. So I was there training for a week and adjusting myself to the. And then the day of the fight happened. We are all in the locker room. It's a single locker room for all the fighters. And I was doing my warm-up with my friends and family sitting in front of me watching, and I'm back to the host room. I was facing only the family. And everybody, at one point, they're all looking to the door, and I imagine must be Zulu come in, because, you know, they all get like a shocking face. And I didn't look back, you know. And then I said, hey, Dad, look at me. What's going on? No, everybody back to attention to me. But then I said, the problem is in the room. Anyway, I was involved with this stress situation. And eventually, we start the fight. And as the bell rings, he become very aggressive, coming towards me like with no respect, trying to make his straight move, which is grab me, lift me, and throw me on the ground. As he moved, I kind of pushed myself away a little bit, doing keeping my distance, and hit him with, I was believing the best shot I can give was my knee fully on his face with all my leverage, all my power, and boom, with the knee. The knee hit his face. And in my mind, I think, oh, I win the fight. It's just a knockout. It's not even close, because he just stood up, shook his hand, spit a tooth out of the mouth, and then keep going. And I said, wow, man, that's for real. This is something I not expect. And then we brawled for about 10 minutes. And at one point he threw me out of the ring, and other points, many times I grabbed him from the back and started to hold him and hitting him with the elbow, but he's escaping from the ring. And was a very tough action with no finishing. So the bell stops at the first 10 minutes was round. So 3 fights, 3 rounds of 10 minutes each. So in the first round ends, I was exhausted. And I backed to the corner and I said, Dad, I cannot go anymore. I cannot go back there. And Dad not even listened to me. He said, oh, you're doing great. He's tired than you. I said, Dad, I'm serious. I'm serious here. I cannot go. I'm exhausted. I cannot move. And he's not even listening. Oh, he's good. And then I start to argue with my dad how tired I was. My brother Halls get me a container with ice and water and throw in my head. And as I start to bang, I'm pushing back, and I was there. And then eventually, like my dad said, like we expecting, after 3 minutes in the second round, I could get a position. He didn't have more power to go on, and I submit him, put him to sleep, and I won the fight. But with that experience, I noticed my worst enemy was my mind. Because in one point, I chickened out. I felt like I was having not enough. I was not putting myself at risk. And I felt like very bothered by that because the worst enemy cannot be yourself. And then I realized I could not have my enemy within. So after that fight, after that experience, I decided never ever doubt myself or ever thinking I have not enough. I have to be killed in order to quit. So it's no quitting in my mind. That was my biggest important experience because I changed the way I interact with my opponents and in the dimension I dedicate myself. So at that point I felt like to do my perfect job, not only as a sportsman, but as a man, I have to always see myself breaking limits and never thinking I not have enough. So for that point on, I never distrust myself anymore, and I always go to the end. And fortunately, with no defeats, so it was all good.